some people can't play it. I mean, it was made so it couldn't be played on MTV, obviously. It was made for $4,000, it was made out of a labor of love. It wasn't made to be banned. I mean, obviously if we put it out and if people would play it, it would be great. But there's a lot of people, one girl got fired for playing it for video show, or her cable access show, for showing it. So there's been some controversy about it. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to play it, you should play it. I don't think anything should be really banned. I mean, all those images aren't real images. It's not like we're showing like snuff films or things like that. You know, we've done that experiment with some simulated snuff films, and we found out that the reaction between you know, a person seeing something that seems real to something that's simulated is far different. You know, the emotions are far different.
I heard Jim Van Bever blew you guys up maliciously for the fucking trailer of Chunk Blower. And I've seen the clip when the flame completely engulfs the three of you guys. And you obviously look surprised as shit. And, you know, predominant scuttlebutt has it that you had no idea the flames were going to leap that high over onto you. And I'm just kind of curious, well, what's the real deal? Not to mention the fact that I saw those very same clips in a Frontline Assembly video, and I was just kind of curious how they acquired those clips, knowing full well that, well, or so I'm told anyway, that you have the same manager. Of course, that could be a complete lie. Anyway, I also heard that Bill Lieb wants to kick your ass in a tub of Jello. Of course, then again,
That was Bill Lieb.
So you guys didn't get blown up or anything?
No, well, Bill almost did from Frontline Assembly.
Oh man.
Bill Lieb. You know Bill Lieb, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Frontline Assembly.
Right.
He was in the trailer for Chunk Blower, and there's a part right at the end where they ignite this car, and they have this torch in the back of the car. and we've seen the outtakes.
Okay, that's all I heard.
You know, after it's been edited, they turn the flame on in the back, you know, so it comes up, right up over top. Bill saw it, he's like going over like this. Flame comes right up, catches his head on fire.
I heard
his head's
about
totally singed out, and he said, "Fuck this, I'm going home." No more movie shit. So that's what happened. And it looks hilarious. It looks deadly. It's a brilliant shot. You know, wouldn't have it any other way. It looks real. We approached him with a concept, and he kind of took it and put some twists on it, which were quite, you know, to Jim Van Bever style, like pulling the money out of the mouth and things like that, which kind of represent, you know, I'm you know, feeding myself with this money I get for singing. So that's what their people are extracting out, and then the whole switching of these two. How this doctor ends up being myself, and I'm my own torturer. And so I think he took kind of an outside perception of my own drug abuse at the time, and you know, I'm always for things like that, because, you know, all through this period of my own reckoning with drugs and things like that, I've had to deal with a lot of, you know, stuff that I didn't want to. So stuff like that was kind of handled in a good way, and his concept, it has kind of anti-drug themes to it in a sense, but at the time they're more like, you know, there's a line, and if you choose to cross the line, the girl representing heroin or a drug, and you know, you at the end go for the girl, and you know, you cross that line, and you fall through the window, or you fall through that space, and then you see, you know, in retrospect, that all of these characters were just your own mind tormenting yourself. Well, I think that's all a part of growing up, you know. I think, you know, I don't think that we were inverted, personally. I mean, I think, you know, we've all gone through dark times, and I think the best reason for this band to be is showing that, you know, you can rise out of a dark place or a dark headspace. And in fact, a kid here last night said to me that, you know, this girl, who's a friend of a good friend of mine, said to me that you know, she just said thank you, and just reached out and grabbed my hand. I said, why? I said, well, you know, your music like listened to me when nothing else would. You know, it was something that they connected with. So I think within the times the way they are, I mean, you know, when I grew up, there's a lot more magic. Perhaps when you grow up, there's a lot more magic. I don't know. I don't know how old you are. I'm 29, so when I grew up, you know, in the 60s, there was like a little more magic, a little more mystery left, and I think everything's too explained nowadays. So if we can, you know, quench that mystic role in some people's minds, and perhaps it is a role-playing game, or perhaps it is something that people need to look up to, or find some sort of direction in, you know, although we're not offering a direction, we're just offering a mood or a headspace for people to get into and explore things and be touched by different issues or different states of mind and things like that. So I don't think it's too weird. I mean, there's it can get to be quite obsessive, you know, and I guess that could be dangerous.
No, oh, that's because he's in the shower. Okay, yeah.
I cannot tell a lie, but I have peed in the shower. Yes, I have. And
Now you're talking
wonder,
Jane's
like,
addiction and shit.
Is that a Jane's addiction question?
We were using a dog, and you're aware of that dog we were using. It was done by an artist in Los Angeles, so she'd made this incredible armature that, when manipulated properly, looked like a real animal. We had kind of an incident over in Germany that was much the same. Some girl or someone had called the I don't know, the local housing or whatever local government authority there was, claiming that we were experimenting on live animals. In this case, in Cincinnati, somebody called with the same complaint that we were mutilating and torturing a live animal on stage. So we had lost the animal, or the stuffed animal, the night before in Detroit, and spent all night going back and forth across Detroit trying to find it, and eventually found it. So we're very protective of it the day after, and so we had a knock at our door, and there's plainclothes detectives there, barging, and not showing any ID or anything. And this came in, saw it was a stuffed animal, and the look on their face from that point was worth the whole, you know, the next series of events, which was them kind of getting in our faces because they were kind of caught with their pants down, as there was no live animal there that was being mutilated. Wayne ran. I don't blame him, really. You know, he has bolted, and you know, it was just, I don't think he was really involved. I think Kevin was the first person to kind of stand up and say, look at, you know, fuck off, you're in our dressing rooms, get out of here. And they just turned to him and said, you know, you're going down. So I stood up immediately, and the guy got in my face and said, sit down. And I said, no. And so he goes, okay, you're going down too. And at that point, some, you know, uniformed police officers came in, saw them in this argument. They kind of carried on from where, you know, there like been this total mistake in what was being done. But when the uniformed police came in, all they saw was us yelling at these detectives. So they grabbed me and threw me up against the wall, handcuffed me, and I was kind of held out for display because I had no shirt on and I was covered in blood. So I was the freak, and so they made sure they kept me out in front of everybody, so anybody that walked by could comment on how I looked or what I was doing. And then I was terrified of being put in this one cell, and it was one of those, you know, cell block one, and they like put me in there, and there's about 6 or 7 black guys in there, and I was just like, God. But it turned out they were the nicest people in the whole place. They're like, yeah, man, what you doing? You look funny. And I'm like, I told them what happened, and they're like, yeah, you see this place? This place is a piece of shit. It's built like shit. You know why? Because they want to build another one right after. And I was just like, yeah. So I had a really good talk with these people in this cell, and what the most ironic thing was that I think the police are like far more criminal than a lot of the people. Like, they were talking about things on the way back in the police car. This one guy was saying to a girl, yeah, I wish I had a bat. I would have walked through some of those little vampire girls and kicked some of them in the cunt. He was saying things like that. We were back in like the office, and they were all talking about partying and doing all this shit. All this stuff they should be, you know, totally protecting people from. They were, so it's just very sick and twisted.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what kind of keyboard setup, what samplers and stuff you use in your shows.
He's got one keyboard, but he only gets to get it in between. Now he's got 4 pads hooked up to radios and stuff, so every time he hits a pad, right, there's a different radio or a tape that goes to it. So if this, like, one radio station's playing opera, one's playing rock and roll, he'll go, like, every time it'd be different.
This last tour is based on a very, like, dark period of delusion for me, where you know, I changed on the inside until it actually showed on the outside, and I lost a lot of myself. So perhaps it isn't as visual yet within the performance, but within the next couple of shows it'll get tight to where that comes across a lot more. Some subtle things in Killing Game that maybe shouldn't slip by, but so there's a test done there in a sense, but don't tell anybody that. We just decided to like try and do something that was visual. It was actually a test for the live show to see if all this stuff would work, this interactive stuff, and once it gets down, it'll get down and it'll look proper.